is what's best for business.
I gotta go take a big hairy dump.
Oh my God.
Tonight's main event, a tag team match.
Yes.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast, the wrestling podcast where we review every segment of Raw and give you the wrestling news of the week. My name, if you're inquiring, is Turbo Tony, and we're here with the rambunctious, the uber energy, ethereal internet wonder darling that is Matt Marsander. Do you like that?
Playing it up a bit too strong there.
Yeah. Trying to I'm like your Paul Heyman, man. I'm building you up, to the crowd, That's it, yeah.
That's what you're doing.
Coming up with I can't call you the beast incarnate because everyone knows you're just an internet being. You're not real, That's the way it is.
That's very true.
Yeah. Big episode this week on Let's Talk Wrestling. We've been saying here that we've been preparing, doing push-ups every day to get ready for this podcast, and then I realised that has no bearing on my vocal ability at all, so kind of wasted, really. But regardless, we knew this was going to be a big week. This is the Raw After WrestleMania podcast, and by God, the news was just pouring in
Huge.
over the week. And me and Matt have done our best, as much as we've spoken to each other throughout the week. We've done our best not to talk about wrestling, to leave it for you on this podcast. To all the people that did subscribe over the week over our last two episodes, welcome along for the ride. I hope you guys do enjoy it. We do appreciate you joining us here. If you want to send us any questions to be featured on the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast in the future, send them. Leave a comment. They may be featured on the show. Who knows? So, yeah. So, shall we get started, Matt? Let's. I think we've got a lot to get through this week. Just before I explain, we said in our last two episodes actually, that we were going to be doing our Superstar Spotlight this week on Daniel Bryan, and obviously because he won his title. For what happened over the week, our Superstar Spotlight will actually be on the Ultimate Warrior, and you've probably already heard about this.
To be expected.
We changed it out of respect. We'll do Daniel Bryan next time, but I think it was more fitting to do it for the Warrior than it was Daniel Bryan this week.
That's it.
Regardless. So, talking of Ultimate Warrior, let's get straight into our first news story of the week. The Ultimate Warrior, unfortunately and very sadly, passed away the day after his Raw appearance this week. Yep. He leaves behind two daughters and a wife, which is the most important thing. I've seen a lot of people not even reference the fact that he's still got a family left behind. But the entire wrestling world was shocked. If you remember, he got inducted to the Hall of Fame this year, almost reconciled with the company after a lot of bad blood was between Warrior and
made peace.
Yeah. And everything seemed to be going well for the guy. He had the Raw appearance, the Hall of Fame. He was the marquee induction at the Hall of Fame this year. He just signed a New Year contract as well to be what he calls an ambassador. I'm guessing it was like a Legends contract, where you can do appearances.
That's how I buy into it.
Yeah. This was when this came up. I almost thought it may be it's just one of these news sites just mucking around, kind of getting everyone, and then you kind of realise that it's real. And
Meltzer, you got it wrong again.
Yeah, yeah. For our generation, myself and Matt, we didn't. I didn't watch that much of Warrior. It was kind of a little bit before my time. He was kind of coming out of his. I saw him back in the WCW days, which definitely was not his best times. Obviously, we'll talk about that in the Superstar Spotlight.
Heyday then.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, for a guy that had such a huge impact on WWE during that time and main evented WrestleMania, was champion, and it seems quite sad that it just seemed like everything was coming around full circle for this guy. And while he got his appearances on the show, there was so much more you could have done with the Warrior, and there's so much more fun that he could have had, and he seemed to really be reveling in it, and it was a shock. It really was.
That's it, definitely.
Out of all the Hall of Fame inductees of this year, he was probably the one who looked the most healthiest, really. When you rank them across some of the others in there. Yeah. What's your thoughts on this, Matt? Obviously, it's quite a shock and everything along those lines, but
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, it's really difficult because we've seen. I don't know about you, but I haven't seen the the Hall of Fame induction ceremony.
Yeah.
But from what I hear, his speech then was quite heartfelt and sort of quite similar to his Raw one. Because his Raw one was definitely sort of like, I know it's my time sort of thing, like the way he made it sound.
Yeah, it came off very cryptic if you look at it, but with all things considered, yeah. His Hall of Fame induction wasn't nearly as much like that. It was to an extent, but yeah, he came off very well spoken at the Hall of Fame induction. Referenced a lot actually the DVD that WWE released back in, I think it was 2005, the Self Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, which was basically a burial of him on WWE term, and he said a lot that obviously he was upset with that at the Hall of Fame induction.
Expected.
Yeah, but as we said, he wouldn't be at the Hall of Fame. He wouldn't be signing a contract with that company if he was that upset with them now. He obviously reconciled. 9 years can be a very long time. But as a dad of 2 daughters, they're the ones that I really, I'm sad for. The fact he leaves a family behind, and he came out with his 2 daughters at the Hall of Fame induction as well. So you can tell that he was a family man at
family
heart.
Heavy,
so, which makes it a little bit of a harder pill to swallow. That's the case. It's obviously it's never good when a wrestler passes away. But the fact is, it was so much in the forefront of WWE, and him being the front force of the Hall of Fame makes it just that much more fresh. You can't get much fresher than him passing away the day after.
That's it.
His Raw appearance. Now we haven't heard that many stories on specifics on the reasons why he passed away. People are pointing to a heart attack. The fact
they put it down as like a major sort of like a medical catastrophe sort of thing.
Yes,
but it does sort of very much sound like a heart attack.
Yeah. For someone just to keel over instantly like that, I can understand why people would point to that, but it's impossible to know until until the results come back and we find out exactly why. But before we even try and get reasons for this is happening, closure has to be done for the family, of course, and everything along those lines. So, very tragic. You look along these lines, and there's not really much more we can really say about that.
Easy, that's it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just sort of like the Raw. Obviously, we'll cover this, but obviously his little section on Raw was quite almost morbid.
When you look at it back now, I mean, obviously you look at it.
Oh yeah, like at the time, they're just like, oh, he's just playing up to the crowd.
Yeah, he's just being an Ultimate Warrior.
And now you're just like, wow, that's dark.
It's got You look at it back now with context, it's almost cryptic, as we said. And we go from there. So. But regardless, we'll move on. There is a bit more news involving Ultimate Warrior, and there is a lot of stuff to do with Ultimate Warrior on this episode, as you would imagine.
Yep.
A lot of stuff to do with him today. So, second part of our news here. The Undertaker has indeed suffered a very heavy concussion during his match with Brock Lesnar. He apparently suffered it early on in the match, and Brock Lesnar had to carry him pretty much throughout the match. He didn't know where he was. If you remember back to when he was doing the German suplexes, and Undertaker was not bumping at all for them. This kind of goes back into
just sort of taking them.
Yeah, which is it's unfortunate that he suffered a concussion. He still continued the match and completed it. Still obviously but obviously one of our big criticisms of him losing the streak was that it was to a bad match, and obviously you can't help that if he's concussed. It doesn't change the fact it was still a bad match. You can't get away with that just because there's a reason for it now. It doesn't stop it being a bad match. But
that's it.
You can't really point fingers at Taker if he's taken that much of a concussion.
If that's the sort of the reason, I guess you could sort of take it and just go, well, I can kind of accept that.
And he's no spring chicken, Undertaker now. Concussion to like a younger wrestler may not be as concussions, it really doesn't really matter. I mean, if you take a heavy concussion, it's a heavy concussion. It doesn't matter. It's still serious no matter what. So, but It'd be hard pressed. I can't exactly know. I don't know which spot he actually got the concussion in on this match, but it must have been earlier on because it was huge chunks where Undertaker just didn't look like he was in it. He didn't know what he was doing, and apparently that was the case. He didn't know what he was doing.
You definitely saw just like a dazed man sort of thing.
Yeah. Which is to be expected at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, as far as I know, he's okay, but it was quite a hefty concussion that he gets, and I don't think this guy's going to be wrestling that. It's up in the air whether he's going to be wrestling at all. If a large sum of matches, I think maybe if he's going to do another one, it will only be one personally, and I think it'll probably be against Brock Lesnar next year to avenge his loss, and then he goes on from there. Or he does the old thing where wrestlers like to do when they bow at the company, they bow out with a loss. Maybe that's what Undertaker wanted to do.
That's it.
Maybe this is.
You sort of hear speculation, like I read on, read on pages, and they're just like, oh yeah, apparently Vince talked Taker into the loss, but apparently no, that's not the case. It was Taker who thought he'd give it up, and so you get all these extra bits, and it's just, I don't buy it.
Yeah, it's impossible to know really what it was. If I had to pick anything for the reason why the streak ended, it's because Undertaker wanted it to. So that's the way it goes. Personally, I think that Vince would never want the streak to be ended. That way, there's a lot more money to be made when people keep coming and watching Undertaker wrestle. But
it's a benchmark of the Mania weekend.
Exactly, yeah. It's just I think that's the way that Vince would have wanted to go. But ideally, we've known this for a while. It's been down to Undertaker how this goes, and obviously he chose the ending of the match. If you actually want to listen to our entire thoughts about this match and all the other WrestleMania ones, we actually did a WrestleMania 30 review on the channel over the week. So if you haven't caught that, catch it. It's a good 15-minute podcast. It's always a good podcast when we get on our format, aren't we? Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So.
Can't put out week.
Yeah. So we've got a departure from WWE this week, which kind of snuck under the radar, obviously with all the other stuff going on. Ezekiel Jackson, he was a guy that I was quite hot on. I thought this guy could be something big.
Big Zeke, yep.
He was ECW champion, IC champion. He was with the Core, if you remember, back when they were a stable. And then he was just kind of disappeared into nothingness, and he came back.
He picked up an injury, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he was out for a very long time, and his career never really recovered. I think if they saw any potential in him, they didn't see any potential in him after he came back. Any kind of plans that they had,
it's all gone.
They didn't put them on hold. They just threw them out the window as soon as he got injured, and that was that really. Which I think is a shame. You could have done good stuff with him, and he was a big hulking guy, which I know Vince loves. So
my only problem with the fact that I could almost see the end of Zeke with the arrival of Big E.
You could be said that. I mean, in my opinion, Big E's a better wrestler than Zeke was. So when you look at it that place, and obviously Big E, although he hasn't shown it, is actually half decent on the mic as well. Whereas Ezekiel Jackson wasn't entirely great. He wasn't up to par. So maybe they already had a guy that was younger, was a powerlifter anyway, who wrestled better, could talk better on the mic, and they thought, well, we don't need two that. We'll pick the
that's
better
it.
one.
What do we need this other guy for?
Yeah, and it's hard pressed to think that they would have any different roles between the two. You know what I mean? So yeah, you might be onto something there. But let's face it, Ezekiel Jackson's been on contract for a very long time and hasn't made any appearances, so it was only a matter of time before he leaves. It's the same with JTG. I think the whole world is a shocker that he's still with the company.
That's it, that he's still under contract somehow.
You got to give him kudos. He's getting a paycheck. I think they might have just forgotten about him. He's just
sort of who's this John guy? I don't know.
I know. Just pay him. That's fine.
Bradshaw. Maybe Bradshaw.
Yeah. Just send the check. It's fine. Or maybe he's just got an alter ego, and he's the one who actually deals with, human resources.
Behind the scenes, JTG's head of HR.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's a conspiracy, as R-Truth would say. So the consensus now is that Steve Borden, otherwise known as Sting. One of my old favourite wrestlers when I started getting into watching wrestling back in WCW. The consensus is that he has now signed with WWE. It's not been made confirmed by WWE, of course. But the overall thought is that he's not expected to make his television debut anywhere in the near future, which I would completely agree with. I think it's oversaturation. Yeah. There's enough going on at the moment. You can have Sting come in over the lull over the next couple of months where WrestleMania, WrestleMania fever dies out, and you've got to try and pick your fans back up and get them interested in the product again. So you can have Sting come back and do that. The idea is that maybe...
There's always SummerSlam.
Yeah. You've got something along those lines. There's a lot of time now until, I mean, WrestleMania 30 was the big payoff that we wanted to. They've got to start anew now. So having Sting come in maybe as a backstage authority figure, maybe a commissioner or something along those lines.
I don't know. I don't think we'll ever see a commissioner role, but I see where you're going with it.
Yeah. Like he could. I don't think he'd be a manager, but I definitely think he's going to be on TV, and he's not going to be
Sting as a manager would just be terrible.
No, it would be bad. Especially if he comes in with that Joker gimmick from TNA, that would be
just laughable.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing is with Sting is I saw a picture on Facebook, and it's really painful because it shows two pictures of like Taker and Sting in their heyday, and it's like this is what you're expecting, and then it shows Taker like this year at Mania, Sting most recently, and it's like, but this is what you'll get. And it's just like, oh, don't do that.
That's it, though. I mean, yeah, you could be. Let's say, I doubt it's going to happen now. What's happened with the streak ending? But let's say that we do get the match, Taker and Sting. It doesn't have to be an amazing match. It's just the occasion. It's the dream match.
Just want one.
Yeah, it's essentially the dark character of WWE against the dark character of WCW back in that day, and. It doesn't, like I said, it's an occasion. You look back at Rock and Hogan, that match wasn't particularly great. If you look at that match, the actual ring work wasn't very good, but the crowd were heavy into that match. They loved it, everything that they did in that match, because it was a dream match. So I still think that Sting and Undertaker would still get a good response, even though they both... Age has not been kind to them, shall we say. Maybe kinder to Undertaker than it has been Sting, shall we say. As you go from there, I mean... Taker doesn't look bad for a 50-year-old. Let's just say that. Yeah, he's
that's true.
He's doing all right. But yeah, I expect Sting to be on WWE, which just sounds bizarre considering all the years gone past where Sting's going to sign with WWE, and then he ends up on TNA and all this stuff.
Yeah, and then he comes out on TNA. It's but this is going to happen, and then it just doesn't.
Yeah,
and we never see it come to fruition.
And if I was Sting, I'd be kind of gypped that you're never going to have that match with Undertaker. He said on record that there's only one match he would want, and that's against Taker. But realistically, come on, there's a lot of other people on there that you can have matches with that people would pay to see. And they don't have to be great. They're just one-off things that would draw some fans in.
People would just pay to see Sting.
Yeah, I think people would. I think the idea of Sting being in WWE is a hugely marketable thing towards hardcore wrestling fans. Sting being in there is not going to bring in the mainstream audience. It's not going to. But it may bring back some of the fans that maybe have left wrestling, because they, remember all the favourites from WCW and stuff. Maybe it might bring back some of those fans. Maybe that's what they're hoping for. And I don't think they have to break out the bank to get Sting in, really. Personally, I don't think.
Well, I'm pretty sure WWE can offer a bit more than what TNA have offered him,
and easily more. They could easily do that. It won't be like the contract would put them out or anything like that.
That's
WWE
it.
Are
like,
doing well
full well, and it'll be like, oh, and then we'll just give you all this money. Well, that's instantly more than TNA. Oh, and then we'll also chuck you in, some, merch percentage and all things like that, and it's like done.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And they will sell a bit of merch. I mean, there was a guy on this week hoping for Sting to debut, and he looked very sad. Obviously, Sting did not debut.
The most depressed person I've ever seen.
He did, and
it's like still waiting.
He's probably still there in that arena, just hoping that he's going to make the late entrance. But he looks very sad while everyone else was having a great old time. He was waiting for Sting. I imagine he would have marked out pretty heavy if Sting actually had debuted on Raw this week.
Yeah, that's it.
Poor guy. Regardless,
stand there and wait.
Yeah, he must have spent a lot of money on a post WrestleMania Raw front row seat, not to
just sit there and just dull it.
Yeah.
Dude.
So. The WWE Network posted their figures after WrestleMania. They have, according to what they've said, over 600,000 subscribers to their WWE Network. In order to kind of break even, as they said, they need to get 1 million. When they open up over here, places outside the America, and obviously they're going to get more people. They might
That's
get.
where they'll get it. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll get that 1 million easy, especially when they open up outside America. So I think for WWE, they're right on track with this personally, and I think by what their estimations are, it's doing very, very well. The WWE Network. The fact is that they are pushing a lot of content on that network that is exclusive. I think that's helping them quite well. And
Oh yeah,
we talked about WWE Network before. When it does launch over here, we will be getting it.
definitely.
That is a given, but we're gonna have to wait until later on in the year for that. But that's okay. That's no problem. So, this is a topic and a half. Nancy Grace, who is a person that myself and Matt do not know. The reason being, she's an American journalist, so we do not know who the fuck she is.
That's a journalist.
Yeah. I think me and Matt are better off for not knowing who she is, because it seems like a lot of people do not give this woman any respect, and apparently it's quite warranted that she does not get any respect. Let's talk about what she actually did this week that involves Let's Talk Wrestling. You're asking, why are you talking about Nancy Grace? Well, she did an interview with DDP that coincided with Ultimate Warrior's death this week.
Yep.
She essentially sandbagged DDP in this, where she was making some very, very ill-advised claims about steroids and wrestler deaths. Now, obviously, there has been wrestler deaths that can be contributed, or like bad stories that can be contributed to steroid use and wrestlers. I'm not denying that. But the very fact that Owen Hart died by steroids is a laughable fact.
The fact that Owen's name was on that list, and it's just like, really?
We all know how Owen died. It was very tragic. It was nowhere near steroids, you know what I mean? So it had nothing to do with that. There was she obviously claimed as well that Warrior's death was due to steroids. There's absolutely no evidence of that so far. So you can't really make any claims about it, but she was very adamant that it was due to steroids, and basically made it all about wrestler and steroid abuse and everything like that, when it should have been, she should have got her facts right, which she did not do. So it was basically a huge journalistic fail. She also prodded the bear that being wrestling fans in general, you do not piss off the IWC, you will get a backlash of major proportion. I did a little bit of research on this woman. She also did an interview which caused someone's suicide.
Yes, I remember this as well.
We're talking about a woman here who isn't afraid to shoot, and fire off all these facts when they're not actually facts, and doesn't care about the repercussions. So I'm really glad I have not heard about this woman until now, and I will not be chasing any more stories about her. She's completely and utterly wrong. And DDP got really badly sandbagged. He did not know any of the stuff that was being putting on, the graphics that were being putting on the.
That's
on
it.
the
Like,
as well.
As far as he was concerned, he was going on to discuss Warrior as Warrior.
Yeah. And it was made to be something else completely different than that. So DDP put out a statement, basically stating that he was just as annoyed as anyone else about this whole thing. But yeah, in light of Warrior passing and that close to it, she really could have. There's no other, I think, community out there that she could have pissed off more, and people that you wouldn't want to piss off more than the internet wrestling fans, or just wrestling fans in general. They are die hard for a reason, and she has made a very, very dedicated and enthusiastic enemy in that sense.
Yeah, out of wrestling fans.
Yeah. So Owen's family, Owen Hart's family, actually made a statement. They're very upset with these statements, as you would imagine, because they're completely false.
Oh, yeah.
And I think any shred of credibility that maybe she had is definitely gone along the wrestling community anyway, which I don't think she had many to begin with. So, yeah, that's Nancy Grace. I don't want to talk too much about her. She's obviously someone I will not like, and I don't want to give her the time of day, really. So you're not going to have us ranting about this weeks ahead unless she really makes us do it, but I'm not going to give her the waste of breath, really. So we have to reference it because it is wrestling news and it is around, but man, you don't want to waste any more time on this woman, do you? Really?
No, not particularly. I don't want to waste anything. I don't want to give her any time.
Let's not waste any more breath then, shall we? Let's move on. So final bit of news is TNA news. I have not caught TNA this week for obvious reasons, because there has been a huge amount of WWE television this week, and realistically, which am I going to watch? And I don't have that much time in the day to catch everything, so TNA takes a skip this week, in a sense.
Sit to the back.
What did actually happen on TNA this week is that Eric Young, I did actually get that right the first time. Eric Young wins the TNA World Heavyweight title. He beat Magnus. Eric Young, if you don't know who he is, he's basically a stalwart of TNA. He's been there for years, and he's basically done all these bonkers gimmicks. And now he's kind of being booked as this competitive guy that can, obviously, and did win the title.
Well, I say, what was it? He won a gauntlet to then go, oh yeah, you can take it. It was like, well, no, I want it now.
Yeah, he won a match to get the title match, and he chose to do it that night. So essentially, he did a Daniel Bryan. Now, one of the things I will say is that everyone's just going, oh, TNA's ripping them off. They're just getting a bearded underdog like Daniel Bryan. I think that is absolutely idiotic, personally. Eric Young is not Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan is not Eric Young. They're two completely different people that wrestle two completely different ways.
Yep.
I think that Eric Young winning the title was more along his experience in the company and the fact that he's been overlooked time and time again, even though he is quite talented. Whereas Daniel Bryan was more because of the fact that the fans are huge on that guy. And even though Daniel Bryan is a fantastic wrestler, a better wrestler than Eric Young, in my opinion, I just think the two title wins are completely different. And it's just, I think it's really narrow-minded for people just to point it and go, oh, because Daniel Bryan win, obviously Eric Young has to win. No, I don't see it that way.
Not the way it goes.
Yeah, I don't see it that way, personally. And Eric Young isn't a poor man's Daniel Bryan. He isn't the Daniel Bryan anything. He is the Eric Young. That's who he is. Yeah. And he's a damn fine wrestler as well. He's a good wrestler. One of the guys on TNA that is genuinely entertaining, whether he's doing a bullshit gimmick, which he's had a lot of, or if he's actually trying to perform a good match, which he's far more than capable of doing. So, I just think the two are complete. Yeah, both of them have beards. Well done, everyone. That's why they both won.
That's where they're going for their comparisons.
If that was the case, then Bray Wyatt should have every belt on WWE by now. If it's beards that gets them belts, no. Beard. I think it's ridiculous, personally, but yeah. In terms of deserving the title, then yeah, fair enough. Eric Young, he's been there long enough. I think that maybe they could have waited a little bit longer and built this guy up more as a competitor. I mean, they've made him have a lot of bullshit gimmicks over the years, so it's going to take a while to change that out of people's minds. But we'll see how TNA goes with it from there. But the reign of the English champion Magnus is over. He wasn't really. We don't really count him as the first world heavyweight champion. Really, if Wade Barrett wins the belt in WWE, that's the one we'll celebrate personally. But that's where we go from there. So that's our wrestling news for the week. It seems like that was our entire podcast's worth. So. Yeah, quite a lot of news.
It definitely felt like quite a lot this time.
Yes, a lot to talk about. And I imagine there's going to be a lot more as time goes on as well next week. And then things should even out as we go on from here. Maybe we're just reaping our karma here, because the last few weeks we were saying, oh, there's going to be loads of news leading up to WrestleMania, and the podcast we've done. We've been struggling to find any stories. I think we had a podcast without any news at all. Which was...
It's like, we don't have anything for you. Sorry.
Oh, there you go. So, yeah, that's the news there for you this week. Some interesting stories, and some stories that we won't want to talk about ever again. But the main one there, obviously, being the passing of Ultimate Warrior. Of course, we're going to do our Superstar Spotlight on him after our Raw review, which comes next. And we're going to talk about Warrior's career from start to finish, his ultimate finish, shall we say. Everything about Warrior was pretty much ultimate, shall we say. So, is there any other news that maybe you caught this week that I didn't, Matt? Am I getting sloppy in my old age now?
I honestly can't say that there has been anything. Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella are now officially married. Woo!
One of the things I caught this week actually was his rise to, they did like they plugged it on Raw. They did
that hour segment, didn't they?
Yeah, on Daniel Bryan's journey to WrestleMania, and it was an interesting watch. It's kind of like just kind of going through, you kind of expect, they've done a lot of this stuff on WWE.com before, but it was quite interesting, and obviously they were talking about the fact that they planned to have the wedding of the week after WrestleMania, which just seems so odd, so bonkers, but they did it anyway, and if you're a big fan of Daniel Bryan, that's a must-watch. It's quite interesting to see him outside, and the fact is that he, actually going to all these extra media appearances doesn't come naturally to the guy, and you kind of see that with him. But he does well. He does well, shall we say? And it's been quite the couple of weeks for Mr. Bryan, so quite good for him. Let's get on to our Raw review.
Before we get this too far on.
Yeah, because we've got a lot to talk about this week, so we might as well get our running boots on. This Raw was the infamous Raw after WrestleMania edition, still in New Orleans.
Yep.
All the rambunctious Wrestling International fans were packed into this stadium.
Definitely, it definitely was a Raw after Mania crowd.
Yeah, in every sense of the word. They were just as diehard as the ones last year, who started the fandangoing, if you remember that. There was no such trend started this year, but they were still very, very loud and very...
Hey, there was some fandangoing.
There was a little bit of fandangoing, yeah, we'll get into that. But nowhere near as much as last year, which is to be expected.
Yeah, definitely.
The show opened with a Daniel Bryan video package, which I actually had shown beforehand. I think at WrestleMania itself, it was the video package they used. But they altered the end of it to kind of summarize the storyline of him winning the belts. And I thought that was pretty good for anyone that for some reason did not catch WrestleMania. It summarized the entire story of Daniel Bryan really well, the whole 6 months.
Yeah, from sort of getting screwed over at SummerSlam all the way.
Yeah, and I thought, a pretty good way to summarise it and start up on a new chapter of Daniel Bryan's title story as we go from here, as he is actually the champion now. So yeah, quite good video package. Like I said, they reused most of it, but for anything, I've been kind of singing to myself the story they had, the song they had in the background of that video anyway, so... it did its job, shall we say. It got in my head, so as a fan of video editing. Daniel Bryan obviously... Yeah. Daniel Bryan did obviously come down after that, and as you would expect, got a monstrous reception. Yes chance. Probably even more so at WrestleMania, because this is at a smaller arena, so the sound gets compacted, so it comes off as a lot louder. Whereas if you have it in a big... stadium rather than a small arena, then the sound actually gets drowned out just by the size of the place. So it doesn't seem like they're actually chanting that much.
We mentioned that on actually at our Let's Talk More Wrestling. Yeah, you could sort of just hear the echo of the scale of the building.
Whereas in an arena, there's nowhere for the sound to go, so it just gets louder and louder and louder. So that's the reason sometimes... That's why ECW crowds in these small little arenas made it sound as if they were in the biggest arenas possible with all these huge crowds, when they actually didn't have much of a crowd at all. Just everyone was chanting and there's nowhere for the sound to go. It made it very rambunctious feeling to it, and this show definitely had that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the crowd marking hard here for Daniel Bryan, as you would expect. He referenced how hard it is to do the yes chants with the two belts, and it's absolutely true. For people, those actual belts aren't like the plastic belts you buy in the shops. Which you have a tag team title belt over in your house, do you not?
You have one as well.
Yes, so there we go.
You have the matching one.
That's where we go. Because we are the tag team champions of podcasting. These things, the actual belts themselves aren't like toys. They are fucking heavy. So, I can imagine it is quite challenging to do it with the pair of the belts over and over and over again. The crowd were bursting into chants of "You deserve it, you deserve it."
Some brilliant chants coming out of the crowd for that.
Yeah, exactly. And Bryan flipped it in typical face fashion, saying, "Actually, you guys deserve it," which you'd expect the face to do. But fair enough. Got a good response. Bryan didn't get much time to really cut promo here. Triple H and Steph came down, looking quite unhappy. Not the happy-go-lucky, sexy Stephanie McMahon, who was giving us very good sound bites a couple of weeks ago. She was not sporting the same get-up as the night before either on this show, so maybe she saw herself on TV and decided not to use that get-up again. Triple H refused to get in the ring, so this gave Daniel Bryan a great chance to give him the double title yes treatment.
Straight in the face. It's like, oh, you're not going to get in? Well, That's fine. Yeah!
Rubbing it in is an understatement, I think, which is ideal, really.
But to be perfectly honest, you've got to rub it in when he comes down to the ring and he gets an arsehole chant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that is fair enough. I mean that's part of the storyline. Daniel Bryan is going to want to stick it to Triple H now and show him I told you I could do it.
It's one of the, sort of with moments like these. I sort of love the fact that you can't just to remind WWE. It's like you can be PG, the crowd will never be PG.
Yeah.
It's like we got you get the holy shit, you get an arsehole chant, and all things like that, and it's just like, it's so great. And you got the commentary team like, oh yeah, they really don't like Triple H. What do we do? We can't repeat them.
Especially with this crowd as well, you'd expect it. These are the fans of the Attitude Era. These are the fans that are willing to pay thousands of dollars to fly over and actually, come to the events. They're going to give you everything they got, and that's what they did. Triple H announced anyway that they were going to have a title match at the at tonight's main event, and I like the fact that they did this because a lot of people were just expecting Triple H just to take the belt off him next night anyway, so it kind of teased that a little bit.
Oh yeah,
the idea of Daniel Bryan winning at Mania, then having the belts taken off him the next night. A lot of people were joking about that, but it kind of played off the fact that might happen, and that this title reign would be like Bryan's others, one night only title reigns, or 5-minute title reigns where he gets screwed out at SummerSlam. So it teased that. I like that personally that they did that.
Oh yeah.
And it was quite an interesting match.
It was an awesome little sort of opening.
Yeah, it was good. The crowd are obviously into it. They'll be into anything at this point, except maybe if you put Brodus Clay out there and he just did anything.
Yeah, that's true. Which is going to kick up a 3-hour mama dance.
Yeah,
no.
That's the Raw after Mania. Yeah, that's it. And they just get different mums from the audience to come down and dance while everyone leaves the arena.
That's it.
Interesting. Yeah, you got a booking feature there, Matt. Yeah.
Theory.
He's still better than Russo. Anyway, let's.
You beat me to it. Better than a Russo book.
That's it. Yeah. The mama on a pole match, maybe. Shall we do that? Yeah. No.
Or the phone, or a mobile phone, so you can call your mum.
Yeah. Matt, don't just. Okay, he might be listening to this and we're coming up with ideas now. We've got to stop this. So backstage, Batista was basically pissed that he didn't get the match for the belt because Batista was on TV. Orton obviously had to be on TV as well, so he just came. They can't not have a single promo without each other. That's not how it works. They have to be on TV together.
That's it.
I wonder what they do when the camera's off. Maybe they just hug and kiss and say that they missed each other.
Don't say such things. The camera's off.
Yeah.
How will they go around anywhere together?
Yeah, I know. Just don't know how it is. I'm sure that maybe they've got they've both got secret powers. They know when one of them's going to be on Raw, and then they just pop up next to. I need to get on TV. I need to get where the cameras are right now, and he just pops up. Because they can't.
That's it. Little teleport.
If any of our fans can go back the last 10 Raws and find out the last time that one of these guys was in the ring without the other, I would be quite grateful. Not
even the ring, just anywhere without the other.
Yeah. So Triple H says that they'll both get rematches, just not right now, which I thought was ironic because Batista actually has no right to a title match. Orton does, he got his rematch clause, but Batista doesn't have any right to a title match.
That's it.
Because screw it, Triple H has money.
That's it. Triple H and Batista are friends. That's how he has a rematch.
Yeah. Steph decides to put Orton and Batista in a tag team title match against the Usos.
Yeah.
And Triple H says the words, if they're all on the same page, no one can stop them, which didn't seem pivotal then, but at the end of the show seems quite apt, considering what they seem to be having planned for Extreme Rules, which seems like a mini Evolution reunion, if we can call it that.
And if it comes to fruition, I will be so happy.
Yeah,
especially considering how it's meant to be rumored to go.
Yeah. If they do that though, they've got to bring Nature Boy back. They have to. It's the way it has to go.
Yeah. Just to have a quick woo and then walk off again.
I've got no problems with Evolution coming back for one night only. It won't be anything more than that, and if it will be, it would be a mistake. I like the fact that you've got a lot of big stars all going for the belt at the same time, not having just one person against one person, having like no one in the title plan, and therefore you've got like loads of people with no plans. It's good to have lots of people saying actively, "I'm going for the belt." So fair enough, it's all right with that.
That's true.
So the first match of the night were the Wyatts.
Tag match.
The Wyatts against Cena, Sheamus, and Big E. This turned out to probably be the best match of the night. There wasn't many good matches on the show, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Which, if I had to rank this Raw over last year's Raw, I think I'd put last year's Raw over it just for match quality, because there wasn't many good stuff to watch here. Actually, in the ring.
For content, this one was probably better, but...
For actual in-ring action and pops for in-ring action, last year, hands down.
Yeah, that's
the way it goes. But regardless, this was, like I said, this was a good match. One thing I did make a note of is that Big E seemed to struggle to pick up Eric Rowan, which, is fair enough, but when you see Cesaro picking up people left, right, and centre in the big show with ease, it kind of puts into context how scarily strong Cesaro is.
Well, that just sells Big E actually quite weak.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, I'm guessing they're kind of just playing up the fact that like Rowan is like a 7-foot monster, and he probably does weigh quite a bit, but he doesn't weigh. But the comparison just
to the Big Show.
To the Big Show. And Cesaro is just like, it doesn't sit very well.
Yeah, we've actually, myself and my wife have come up with a few things about Cesaro, just saying that, if there's ever like any, construction that needs to be done, you can just get Cesaro to kind of build it for you. You don't need cranes.
Cranes. What for?
Yeah, just get Cesaro in there, and you'll get that stuff done, no problem. So, yeah, the guy is scarily strong, and when you've got a guy who's obviously for mass bigger, Big E is, it kind of puts into context as how strong Cesaro is. He's just a walking muscle. That's pretty much all he
Well, they've
is.
always said pound for pound, Cesaro is the best. Cesaro is strongest.
Yeah, and there's no one even close.
But Cesaro wasn't even in this match, so we're getting a bit sidetracked.
Yeah, but we're good fans. We're good fans of Cesaro. So
big Cesaro fans.
We'll talk about more Cesaro later, because he had a very good moment on this show as well.
That's it.
The Wyatts did get the victory.
I didn't like the fact. The thing is, it was a good match and probably the best of the night. I didn't like the fact that the commentary team pretty much summarised this match as the best the 6-man Wyatt match ever. I was like, really?
Yeah, it was.
Have you forgotten an Elimination Chamber?
Yeah, it was when you look back at that match. Yeah, this wasn't close to their best matches, really.
No,
but
the only thing I enjoyed is the fact that it's just whatever. If Cena was getting the upper hand, like, you were drowned by booze.
Yeah, they were very anti-Cena. He was the same last year. Remember when Ryback blasted him with the meat hook, and everyone cheered Ryback, probably bigger than he ever has been in his entire career. And it went all downhill for Ryback after that last year. But yeah, same thing. He got booed.
Christ, that was last year, wasn't
it? How much a year can change, huh?
Yeah.
He got booed to shit. I thought Sheamus might get some bad reception. If you remember last year, his match with Orton was basically hijacked by the very same fans that were at this show. But he actually got treated fairly well by the fans this year. So
yeah, he still got booed.
Yeah, still got booed, but not nearly to the.
I think it's just because the Wyatts are now in a situation where it's sort of like, if you go against the Wyatts, you're going to get booed.
Yeah, they're so bad that people love the Wyatts. So.
Yeah, and especially considering it's like, oh, they're really evil and twisted, and like, oh, they're such heels. But it's like, the moment the music starts playing, everyone's clapping along, and it's just like, oh, that's the whole thing ruined.
Yeah, and the song of "Got the Whole World in Your Hands" is ringing around the stadium again. Which was quite delightful. Quite enjoy that. But they got the win here, and I think they're probably obviously going to do something with maybe the Wyatts having another 6-man tag match with these guys, or maybe Cena Wyatt too. But they're going to do something involving Cena and the Wyatts again. That's for sure.
That's it.
We had a
pro. Well, we said that. We said that earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Because we were just expecting the week is just going to get a whole, oh, you can't be the monster that you want to be. Well, how about at Extreme Rules, where you can just do what you want?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Just that way his family can get more involved. And I said then that he'll be going over in that match. It makes no sense for Cena to end this just burying. They're not really burying Bray Wyatt, but still getting the wins over him and not making him look as good as he did coming into the
That's it, yeah.
the rivalry, which, you know, something that Cena is well known for. You have a rivalry with Cena, it's very rare you're going to come out the better for it, but I think you have to do that with some of these rising stars. And if there was a theme of this Raw, it was rising stars, and Wyatt is one of those. So,
oh yeah,
I still think they will give Wyatt the victory over Cena eventually as it goes on. So, we had a promo for the first of NXT guys that are due to come up. I did say that after he lost the belt that he would be coming up soon.
Yeah.
Matt, are you a believer?
I'm not a believer. In any way am I a believer? No, hell no, and get rid of him.
Okay.
I don't like Bo Dallas.
Matt, don't
There's something
stop
about Bo Dallas that I don't
believing.
No, I'm not.
No.
I will give up believing.
Okay.
I will not be a believer.
Okay. What? You didn't bow? Okay, so Bo Dallas, this is a promo for him, who I have dubbed the Justin Bieber of the WWE. He is so face that people are going to hate him for being face. That is his gimmick. He does it in NXT. He's so face, people hate him. So that's why I've nicknamed him the Justin Bieber of WWE. And you're probably going to hate me for this. I think that actual whole shtick and that whole gimmick can work. I think that he's going to get a lot of heat.
It can work, and it will work for him, and he will get... It will work, you know, it'll work for him, and he'll get titles and things like that. I don't like it, but it'll work.
Yeah. So you're going to want people to beat him now, so that's a good heel, you know?
That's a fair point. I do get to see people beat him up.
So you could say maybe you do believe in Bo Dallas.
I don't believe in Bo Dallas. I will just bear witness to watch him get beaten.
You mean you'll Bo witness?
Just stop it. Just give it up. No more Bo references.
Come up with your best Bo references in the comments so Matt can read them all. Or I'll read them to him next week. Yes. The pain will continue. So yeah, we can expect Bo Dallas to be debuting sometime soon. They're probably going to give a few more vignettes to Dallas as he comes up.
The thing I hated the most about this whole video package is just like it almost sold it like some real cheap knockoff self-help guide.
What, like
it's
the
sort of like,
Simon Dean system? Do you remember that? Jesus.
Huh?
Do you remember Simon Dean?
Not too well.
This is a guy that came in ages ago, and he had like this. He's a wrestler ages ago. He wasn't in for very long, but like his whole gimmick was that he made like a self-help like video, and he was selling it to people.
Oh yeah.
You remember him now? Yeah.
Yeah. It is that exactly. But it's just like, don't like if you haven't tried, then you've already lost. Holy. I was just like, oh god, just get rid of it.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought I was watching an advert.
I did actually.
I was just like, they've cut to.
I thought it was maybe like
cut back, like obviously because we don't. America has a lot more adverts than we do, and we've got to deal with that.
Yeah.
And I thought it just cut back to Raw a bit too early. We were still catching an American advert, and suddenly it's just like, oh, Dallas.
I thought maybe it was like an advertisement for like what, you know, maybe WrestleMania next year or something like that. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to do it in this area, and this is their theme. And then I heard Bo leave, and I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, as Bo Dallas lost the belt on an NXT arrival, we knew then it was only a matter of time.
That's it, yeah.
In wrestling, you either lose the belt because they don't think you're any good, or you lose the belt because they think you are good and they want to give you something else.
That's it. On to the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the IC belt was essentially for, and the NXT belt is essentially the same thing. The last two guys who have won that have ended up now on the main roster. So, if there's any good omen for Adrian Neville, is the fact when he eventually loses the belt, he'll get called up as well. So that's the way.
Oh, that's it.
So,
especially considering it's a real pain, but I can sort of see Adrian Neville. If Adrian Neville turns up, we're never going to see Evan Bourne again.
No, and I think by now you're never going to see him now anyway. I think he's done, Evan Bourne. He's been out too long. He's like Ezekiel Jackson. He's
apparently been cleared to wrestle, though. It's just the fact the creative is just like, we haven't got anything for you.
Yeah, I don't think they trust him anymore, to be honest. After they gave him like a big push, if you remember, he was on Raw every week, and then obviously they had the wellness violation. And sometimes, a lot of people might say, oh, you know, wellness violations are your problem if you get 3 of them. If you get 1 of them and they're kind of indifferent on you, that can be enough to end your career with them. They just won't use you.
That's it. Like we're expecting you to prove yourself. Oh,
Yeah.
you got a wellness violation. Well, you are allowed 3, but you have disappointed us.
Yeah, so that's essentially your career over. Unless they really think you're going to be something. Like, Randy Orton had 2 wellness violations on his thing, so one more and he gets fired, technically. But
I think it's been long enough that one of his has been cleared.
Yeah, I think there is a system now that you can get one of yours cleared if you've had a certain amount of time and you go to like classes and shit, which I think is probably a way for them to get Randy Orton off of that.
Yeah.
Because
if you remember, honest, they're not going to go sticking him in the title picture if they haven't.
Yeah, as soon as that news came out, he won the belts. So he was straight back in the forefront, out of the limbo. He was doing nothing for about a year because of that whole bit, and then as soon as they released that workaround, he was suddenly champion again. So
that's it.
WWE aren't silly. They obviously had a plan. They executed it quite well. Kind of shady regardless, but. Anyway, so we'll move forward. Fandango was here. He got a good Fandango response. Nowhere near the same as last year. I think people are burnt out.
But people remember how to Fandango.
Yes, but there wasn't a whole stadium doing it this time, so I would say that. But he came out with Summer Rae. I do believe Summer Rae is more over than Fandango, personally.
Yeah. I think it all goes to show with the amount of people who are actually now watching NXT now it's available on the network.
Yeah. Certainly. But not only that, I just think with the stuff that she's been on Raw, I think people are more interested in what Summer Rae's doing than Fandango's doing. So that's personally. And this guy's made quite a few fuck-ups in a few of his matches already, so he's getting a little bit of a nasty reputation for doing that. Whenever he has like a lengthy match, he always seems to make some sort of mistake. And the most recent one was against Goldust, where he did injure him, but it was only a slight one, but still could have been a lot worse. But they went against Santino and Emma. We're big fans of Emma here on this show, and this was a pointless shit match. That's pretty much all we can say about it. There was no time in it. Emma basically got in and used the Emma lock, and that was pretty much it. It was like a one-hit kill sort of thing.
Yeah, it was. Oh look, the Emma sandwich, and whatever. Just remember, everyone, Emma can bridge. Watch as she bridges. Oh, she's tapped. So
taps, yeah. Since Emma's actually got onto the roster, they've had no good matches with her, even though we know and we've seen matches that have been excellent with her on NXT. So it's a matter of them giving her time. She can go, but she just hasn't been able to yet.
Yeah.
If one thing I will say...
I have but one problem with Emma.
Go on.
Her song gets stuck in my head.
Yes. Well, that's kind
of...
And
I will find myself, it will be days after I've watched Raw, and then suddenly I just find myself just going, and it's like, oh, why is that?
But are you tempted to do the dance with it, though? That's the real question.
No.
I think the dance is getting a little bit over. I will not be
doing the bubble popping.
I think the dance that she's doing is getting over a little bit, but I don't think it'll get over loads. But it is getting over a little bit.
It's no fandangoing.
No, it's not. But I still think her dance has more chance of getting long-term over with the crowd than Fandangoing will, but there we go. I think Fandangoing is dead. This guy got no response for about 8 months last year after the whole spiel ended. So not really a great match. It was basically the same as the match they had before. They just decided to put it in again, and out of all the people in this match, Emma is the one that's the most talented. They're not giving her the chance to show how talented she can be.
Oh yeah.
And they're not doing a great job of educating their main audience that she is a competitor. They haven't done that yet. So you only have a small space before people start thinking she's just like the rest, and then you've got more work to do on your hands to make people believe that she isn't like the rest. So.
That's it.
Brock Lesnar, the savior of the streak. That's not really a way to say it. The destroyer of the streak.
Savior of the streak. Yeah.
Well, he can't.
The conqueror.
The conqueror of the streak. And Paul Heyman came down. They're obviously beaming the fact that Brock Lesnar ended the streak of the nights before, and they got a monster heel response, which you would expect from the crowd. Yeah. Heyman here was just on red hot form. If there was anything that you would want Heyman to cut heel promo about, this is probably the number one thing, like dream promo about him talking about his client beating the streak, the amount of stuff that he could do, and he did. He was excellent. I haven't made many notes of what he said because it wouldn't do it justice. It was absolutely fantastic what he...
I don't know, there was one part where I was just like, it's getting a bit real for people. I can't remember it. He made a dig at the international fans, but I can't remember what that was.
Yeah. He said something like, I'm spend thousands, fly over to Raw just to show up on TV.
That's it, yeah.
But he got the heat, he got the response. So.
Oh, that's it. Well, the thing is, was there one point during Heyman's promo that he broke down the fourth wall? Because he mentioned it's like, oh, all these people, then they haven't been UFC champion.
Yeah.
Like, all these people, and none of them have actually fought.
Yeah.
Like a proper fight. It's just like,
I don't. In a sense, yeah, but I don't think you could take it as if he wasn't as well. I mean,
That's it. I think it's sort of like, well, everyone nowadays buys it as sort of like a staged production with WWE.
Yeah,
and they're still physical, but I guess it's not an octagon.
It's not like a fight where you can get knocked out, sort of stuff. So I think that he can get away with saying that and not breaking the fourth wall. The one thing that I think that he broke the fourth wall more on, so, is saying that the Undertaker went to hospital because he's supposed to be the supernatural entity that can't be destroyed and everything like that. And then he was saying that he got really badly injured, and obviously Vince McMahon went with him to the hospital at WrestleMania after that match. So yeah, he was. If there was a machine gun of promo stuff here, he was firing out at full pace and changing a magazine quicker than anyone. He was on red hot form on this one.
He was just gold. If we've ever said that we've ever had a good Heyman promo, that was it.
Yeah, that's it. This guy is fantastic when you give him stuff that he just genuinely wants to use. And he referenced Hogan messing up the Silverdome line, which got a good response as well. The one thing I will say, that he tweaked his promo here to cater to the crowd that was there, and that's what makes him so good. That he could have easily done this promo and you can tell that a lot of this bit was tweaked to get responses from that hardcore crowd. And that's what I was saying. So a lot of these guys, they go out there, they read these lines off, and it makes no sense sometimes to the places that they are, and they're saying stuff that maybe they know is not going to get a response, but they do it anyway. But you got guys like Heyman who can tweak it ever so slightly, and it makes it so relevant and gets such a big response. And he did that all over this promo. He made it very relevant to that crowd, and I thought it was very, very well delivered, shall we say.
Oh yeah.
We still want that Paul Heyman and Bray Wyatt promo off, but who knows? We might get that one day. That's our promo dream match if there ever is one. That's our Stone Cold versus Hulk Hogan, dream match just in promo form. So
that's it.
We had a promo for the second NXT guy due to come up, Adam Rose.
Yeah,
who's the party guy, and they had two here. With the same with Bo Dallas. The one thing I say, Bo Dallas we knew was coming up. Adam Rose has only recently undergone the gimmick change to Adam Rose.
That's it.
You know who was his name before?
See, no, but I thought he was originally Leo Kruger, but I've been sort of. But
I think he was. I
recently watched the match, and I was like, I'm not too sure.
No, I think it is. I think I heard that he was. They changed it to this gimmick, and it's only been on NXT. Maybe just over a month, maybe less.
Yeah.
So for him to be pushed already, they must really be confident in this gimmick to get him up into the main roster already. I mean, obviously he may have already improved his wrestling skills already, so that's fine. But
yes, that's it. He used to be Leo Kruger.
Yeah. So I mean, you've seen him wrestle as Leo Kruger. I haven't seen him wrestle at all. Is he a good wrestler?
Yeah. Very physical brawler.
Well, that's going to work right in what the fans want nowadays, isn't it? So
that's it.
So
he's also, I don't know. He also, because when he went on the Kruger gimmick, he was a hunter.
Yeah.
Sort of like big game hunter. So he was he was sort of like a bruiser brawler, but then he's also very methodical in targeting areas.
Yeah. Which, I mean, he can tweak it to fit his gimmick, but he can still wrestle the same way, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously, he's going to be coming in, and I believe that the Adam Rose character, as it comes off, is very face, so you're still going to have to do the same thing. I do like the idea, though. I mean, his entrance, he comes down, he's carried in by loads of groupies and stuff like that, so that actually having that is going to have, like, the same sort of entrance feeling. Not when
that works in NXT, but I don't know how that's going to play up on Raw.
A lot of people may have said the same thing about the Wyatt's entrance, but it does. So
the Wyatt's is fine. That adapts well. But he basically essentially has the party group join all the way to the ring.
And they stay
No,
outside, don't they? So they carry him back up once they're finished, don't they? I think that's...
I don't know if they stick around outside.
I don't know, but...
I haven't seen an entire match. I've literally just seen a bit of his Adam Rose as a match and entrance.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe he does it a few times or breaks it out for a special event. But I mean, there's a lot of guys that are out in the back that they can use to do this entrance with. It's not much of an issue. But I see people enjoying his entrance, and as you say, he's a good wrestler. I haven't seen him wrestle at all yet. I mean, I got into NXT after this guy was repackaged, so
yeah,
we'll have to see how it goes from there. But yeah, very odd that he's getting put onto the main roster already. So they must be really confident this guy can get over. So. Let's move on. We had Batista and Orton challenging the Usos for the tag team belts. This match did not.
Batista and Orton beat up the Usos,
and the match really.
And that was about it.
Yeah, that's essentially it. It wasn't a match. It was a attack. They were all over the Usos. They may as well have asked for their number while they were there. So the match was stopped, and I'm glad we didn't see a title change here. WWE have done this before, where they make uneasy alliances out of people and they give them the tag belts because it's the age-old story. But they didn't do that here, which is good. There was a title change in Raw, but it was not on this one. So that was I like that, and obviously you're happy with that because the Usos are champions still. So
that's it. But I'm just thinking, if you wanted someone to get beat up, I mean, granted they don't have the titles, so they're not as appealing. Just get 3MB.
Really? To beat up the Usos? Oh, someone for them to beat up. Okay,
yeah.
I thought you were actually penning to me that you should have 3MB go
3MB should beat up the Usos.
Yeah, I was like, that's not going to make any sense.
As much as I hope that like Drew McIntyre steps away from it and he comes out better for it.
Yeah,
I don't want 3MB to beat the Usos.
I was already looking for a new host. I thought you'd gone bonkers. There you go. But
something snapped.
Yeah, I thought maybe you just gone insane. Thinking of that anyway. No, I get you. Yeah, they could have done that, I guess. But I guess they wanted the Usos on the show, because they knew they'd get a big response. Didn't get a huge response, but they got a good one.
That's it.
That's fair enough. And yeah, like you said, this wasn't really a match. It was just them, and then they celebrated in the ring together awkwardly and stuff like that, which pushed forwards the fact that they're going to be teaming up with each other for Extreme Rules. That's the way that I pen it.
That's
anyway.
it. Yeah.
Rob Van Dam made his return. We did say this the last couple of weeks that we expected him to return tonight and not at Wrestlemania, which just made more sense. And he went against Damien Sandow, who's the resident whipping boy.
He's now become,
Sandow was pretty much getting what the Ziggler treatment, which is a shame, but this is what I call the Ziggler treatment. They don't really give a shit about him and people like Ziggler, and with all these new guys coming up, they don't seem to be doing anything to build these guys up. They're on the back burner, and I think they're going to stay there, which is really a shame for the likes of Sandow and Ziggler, because Sandow is brilliant giving promos, and he is a great character, and he is 100% that character.
That's it, and he's a good wrestler as well.
Yeah, you look at his matches with Cena, were brilliant. His match with Cena this year, I think, was one of the best ones I've seen. So, really, really good matches from him. He's capable of it. Rob Van Dam pretty much just ran over Sandow anyway. It was a good enough match, but...
Well, no. You say a good enough match. They call Rob Van Dam the human highlight reel. It was the human highlight reel's highlight reel.
Yeah, it was essentially all of his signature and finishing moves and done. The reason why I call it a decent enough match is because there really wasn't much else to call a decent enough match on this show, apart from that first match which we had. There was a lot of non-matches which WWE seem to like doing recently. They really like giving you this match and it ends really quickly, or it just does not happen at all. That's the way that they're going with it at the moment. But yeah, Van Dam's back. It'd be interesting to see what they do with him, if they got any plans. My thoughts is maybe they don't have much of a plan for him. He may end up being like the Sheamus role, where they just end up sticking him in other people's feuds just to kind of fill a slot. That's what I think Van Dam's going to be involved in.
I guess we'll have to see.
I'd say put him in a rivalry for like the US or the IC title or something, even though you got both faces going for it. Van Dam's got a history with the IC belt, so why not have him have a good match with Big E, which I'm sure he could have. And
that's it. Or why not just bring him back in the Jericho sort of role?
Yeah, do that. Yeah, either or, it works. But he's had his rest now, Van Dam. You can expect him to be back for at very least the next couple of months, and then he'll have another break, or 3 or 4 months, and he'll have another break or something along those lines. Oh yeah. So we had Rey Mysterio against Bad News Barrett.
Yeah.
Barrett is finally back in the ring. He got a huge pop for his anything he did really. When he said he's got.
It was definitely a case of you knew where the English fans were.
Yeah,
because you heard them all. It's like that is a British chant,
and he was not hiding his glee at the fact he was getting cheered so much.
Yeah, that's it.
And they didn't have him kind of just go heel at the audience. It wouldn't have worked. So yeah, it's good that he was only heel towards Rey Mysterio, and he gave him a good old beating as well on this show.
That's it.
He got the win.
I forgot how technical like Barrett had been.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see that he hasn't like fully just ring rusted into nothingness on a TV show. But I mean, I know he's been wrestling on live shows, but yeah, he hasn't actually wrestled on TV on Raw for God knows how many months now. Since beyond the new gimmick that he had. So it's been a long time since Barrett's been.
Yeah, I mean, he's not yet wrestled under Bad News Barrett.
Yeah. So yeah, this match was what it was. Barrett got the win with his bullhammer elbow, which I still don't think is as good of a finish as his Wasteland finisher. I know it doesn't. I know
Wasteland.
Yeah, I know that like it looks more deadly than the Wasteland. I just think that like it doesn't get that much of a response, and they say, oh, you should be able to hit it at it anywhere, but it doesn't really happen with when he does it. Maybe he needs to be. Maybe he just needs to have more good matches, have that as a shock finish more for it to get it over in my mind. I mean, Wasteland doesn't look great either. I mean, basically he's just flopping them over, which doesn't look that bad. But I mean, I don't know. We'll go from there. Alexander Rusev finally made his debut, as we did say we expected him to on the show. And when I saw he was against Zack Ryder, I almost laughed out of my seat.
It was just like, and Zack Ryder's already in the ring, and it's just like, oh no. Gee, two guesses where this match is going.
This was a squash match in every sense of the word, and as you would expect. They're calling Lana the was it the Ravishing Russian or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Which I think is stupid. Personally, I think that's really idiotic. You just call her Lana. Everyone knows that she's a good-looking woman. It's not that bad of a thing.
She just is Lana. She's not anything else. Just you got the brawling, the brawling Bulgarian and all that lot.
Super athletes, yeah.
That's it. And we'll have the Ravishing Russian. Like, no. Don't call Lana the Ravishing Russian. Just leave it. She is Lana. She is his handler.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
They leave it at that. That's fine. So yeah, he basically decimated Zack Ryder here. Showed off a lot of good range of his moves and his flexibility. The guy is a well-built unit. You know, he doesn't fit the mold of a huge guy. What I mean, like, like the, Brock Lesnar's and everything out there, but he is a big guy and he's very agile.
Sort of like Samoa Joe almost.
Yeah, in a sense. His wrestling style is something that if you were just to see him, you would not expect it to be as versatile as it is.
Yeah. But he's got like a Muay Thai sort of style to him as well.
Yeah.
Apparently he's training.
Which is good.
It's just like, you're a 305-pound man.
Yeah. He gets around that ring pretty well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So his finish is the basically the camel clutch, which he calls the accolade. He put it on Zack Ryder. He tapped out, as you would expect, and he would not let go unless Lana told him to do so. I will say though, I actually think that Rusev is pretty good. I'm actually quite excited for what they can do with him. One thing I will say though is that the crowd don't seem to give much of a shit with him about.
I think we had too much of. I think we're going to go with. Do you remember? What's his name?
Have you?
I can't remember his name.
Explain it to me.
Welsh guy.
Oh, Mason Ryan.
There we go, Mason Ryan. He didn't get over. He should have got over. He was a huge guy, and he was sort of set to be the new Batista. But he was Welsh, and heavy Welsh.
And they made him speak Welsh, didn't they?
That's it.
Yeah.
And WWE should have learned by now that it doesn't get over very well when they're not in English.
Yeah.
Cesaro didn't get over to begin with, because he'd come out with his 5 different languages.
Yeah, and now he's not doing that spiel anymore. Now he's
not doing that, and now he's huge.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a problem for the Rusev character.
I wouldn't think it's personally with Rusev not speaking English is fine unless if you have Lana doing all the talking. But having Lana speaking 2 different languages, it makes the first half of her promo meaningless because she has to repeat what she said.
I think we're going to see like an Umaga sort of thing with Rusev.
Yeah, we could see that. Yeah, but as you say, we've said this before, no one gets over if no one can understand what they're saying. So it's not being racist, it's not. But if you have a guy who goes over to Japan and can't speak Japanese, people aren't going to understand what he's saying, therefore it's harder for him to get over. It's just
That's it.
The whole same thing happened with Sin Cara. He refused to learn English and he paid the price.
The first Cara. Yeah.
The first Sin Cara, yeah.
Well, it's like surely by now everyone has seen it. Anyone who's on Facebook or anything like that, or follows any sort of like wrestling meme page, has probably seen the whole. But what if Great Khali's off dropping the biggest pipe bomb ever?
Yeah.
But nobody understands him.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's so much of a language thing. I just think that even his words are clumsy. Even if he was speaking English,
just everything about Khali is clumsy.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same thing for anything. If a guy went over to any other foreign non-English speaking area and spoke English, you're not going to get over. You need to learn the language of the area in order to connect with the fans. If you're a heel or a face, you need to do it both. But if you don't, then you need a mouthpiece to do it for you. But if that mouthpiece is speaking 5 different languages and all this shit, then it means that they're only interested in what they're saying is English. Fair enough.
Right.
We know that he's foreign. We know we're supposed to not like him because he's foreign. You know, that's essentially what they're getting at.
Don't dislike him. Why? Because he's different.
Yeah. But like, we get that already. We don't need you speaking a foreign language to get that. We understand it.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to forget that he's from Bulgaria, and we're not going to. And you don't have to call Anna the ravishing Russian or whatever they're calling her for us to know that she's Russian. You can tell. You know what I mean? We're not stupid. But they seem to think.
And listen to her for a minute, and it's like, yep, Russian.
They don't have to accentuate it. We get it, WWE. And the more you accentuate it, the worse it looks, personally. So, bit somber this next bit. Ultimate Warrior makes what would be his final appearance on WWE television. The day
we had the Hall of Fame video first.
Yeah, which kind of showed all the Hall of Fame inductions. We didn't speak about the Hall of Fame before. The only things that we could say obviously was Ultimate Warriors, as we spoke about before, and I did say that we talked about it on the last episode, didn't we? About a few.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I don't remember mentioning, but we were just like, oh, the Undertaker has to be part of Paul Bearer's entry, and I don't think I ever picked up on it, or we never mentioned it. But it's like, oh, that's how he was there.
Yeah. So
fitting.
Yeah, fitting. And that was a really good moment at the Hall of Fame as well. The one thing I will say is that there was the whole Mr. T mother spiel, which just was really
mother.
The guy really likes his mother, and I think everyone in the world knows this by now.
That's it. Hell, I love Mr. T's mother.
Yes, she's the most loved person in the world at this point. So yeah, that whole that whole speech was really awkward. There's no way getting around it. It was just really awkward. It was 35 minutes of him just saying the same thing over and over again, essentially. So yeah, the Hall of Fame ceremony itself was pretty interesting. I actually watched it all the day of WrestleMania. 3.5 hours of Hall of Fame. So as you can imagine, I kind of left it on in the background listening to the speeches as I went out. I will say that if I had to pick out 3 that you had to see, Ultimate Warrior, Lita, and Jake the Snake, they're the 3 that you want to see. Razor Ramon, Scott Hall's one, was very short and sweet. It wasn't actually out there for that.
Kind of had to be for Ramon.
Yeah, he said what he said what he needed to say, and he didn't dwell on it. But I will say that Lita's came off really well. She came off quite well spoken, and she's not exactly bad to look at as well, is she? Really?
No.
Lita.
It is,
Yeah.
The thing I quite like is the fact that Paul Bearer's kids still can do Paul Bearer's voice very well.
They seemed quite awkward, but they did it. They seemed nervous, but they did it. So kudos to them for all that. The one thing I will say, Carlito was there, and he made a few jabs at WWE, which I imagine won't get him on anyone else's. You
think you're coming back? Oh no.
He said something along the lines of his father's time being cut, and he was used to that in WWE, so a bit of a stick at them. And there was more other stuff as well, and he kind of backtracked. He was saying, I don't want to make this about me, I want to make this about my father's induction, in which case it was a little bit too late really to be talking about that after you just made digs at the company, really. Are you if I had to give you any tips, Matt, to watch any of the speeches, Jake the Snakes is very heartfelt. It will almost bring you to tears. He's very honest. about his addictions and his vices and how close he was to killing himself on it. And obviously Ultimate Warriors, for obvious reasons, he was very eloquently spoken, and what's happened, that you kind of owe it to yourself to see it. And I think Lita's was very good as well. If you have actually caught, though, any of Lita's recent podcasts with JR or Jericho, then you may have seen a lot of what she had to say. There's a few extra stuff, but a lot of it was basically accentuating.
Yeah, I've caught Jericho's one.
Yeah. So, go on to the actual Ultimate Warrior segment. As we said, he makes what would be his final appearance on WWE TV. The day after Raw is when he passed away. So we'll talk about what he said first off and what happened. He came out and got a huge response, as you expect. The crowd were very hot on him. He said that he didn't know what to say. He couldn't find the words, so he put on his warrior mask and started speaking in typical Ultimate Warrior fashion.
That's it, snorts and all.
Yeah, snorts and all. And he said this very cryptic promo. I've actually got it in our spotlight of Ultimate Warrior later on. It was very cryptic because it was almost essentially saying that the gist of it is, no matter what happens to me if I die, because of what I've done, I will be remembered as a legend around the world. That's essentially what it said.
That's it, yeah.
And other people in the back can have that as well. It's down to the fans to decide whether you're legendary or not. That's essentially the gist of his promo, which back then you think, oh, that's quite nice. When the fact that he's passed away makes it especially cryptic.
It was really awkward because I actually watched it the day after.
The day after, yeah, which makes it...
It's literally like I wake up in the morning and check through everything, and then suddenly it's just like, oh, Ultimate Warrior's died. It's like, what?
Yeah, you're just not prepared for that, yeah.
No. And then it's like, oh, no, I was carrying on watching Raw. Apparently he's got a... that's difficult.
Yeah.
It's actually quite tough to watch.
I can imagine.
Sort of
probably
the same day as sort of like reading it and then just watching it. It's like,
yeah, and it makes it more surreal, I think, because
you
see him,
because then it definitely sounds like probably like a dying man's last words sort of thing.
It does, yeah, in a way. One thing I will say is that while he was definitely all up for this and he was trying his best, when he was shaking the ropes and stuff, he looked uncomfortable.
You could see him struggle.
And towards the end of his promo, he looked a little bit worse for wear. Getting in and out of the ring, he didn't look fantastic. Whereas at the Hall of Fame, he looked a lot better. So I was quite shocked actually to see him not looking too great. Now, whether that's maybe something to do with what happened with him, we don't know. Of course, I'm not going to be a Nancy Grace and give out unsubstantiated claims.
Speculations.
I don't want to mention her name anymore, but still. We try and be as respectful and give you the facts if we have them on LTW, and we're not even a really well-known journalist. We're just wrestling podcasters, and we have more integrity. I won't get started. You're
letting yourself get carried away there.
Yeah. So yeah, this whole thing, you owe it to yourself really to actually, if you haven't seen Raw, just to see this promo. It's the last time he will be seen by wrestling fans. And like I said, it's so fresh. I mean, he died the day after this promo. That's how shocking it was, that we just saw him there. And it looked like the future was bright for him to have a long future working as an ambassador for WWE. It didn't turn out that way, unfortunately. But yeah, for looking at it, there was a few people actually in the crowd that gave some reports saying that he looked very... worn out. He looked very awkward in there physically, so maybe there was something going on. We don't know yet. So
that's it.
WWE airs a promo. If you know that we have a saying on the show of wrestlers putting their tongues on other wrestlers' buttholes, basically licking their ass, and giving them a good old tongue wagging of positive vibes, shall we say?
Yep.
WWE decided to put their tongue on our buttholes instead by airing a promo thanking all of us as fans. I kid. It was nice for them to do this, I guess. A lot of the stuff that they do is kind of butter us up as fans as being, the reason why they're there. So, yeah, fair enough. It was a
the
nice
video comprised of Daniel Bryan turning up at a TNA show. It's like, yes,
oh my god, that's
empty
brilliant.
Arena.
Okay, you win. You win this podcast, Matt. Congratulations. You can go home now. You're done. Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was quite a good video, personally. I think it was quite impactful.
It's definitely good. I actually enjoyed watching that. That was quite a good one.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe we do like having WWE's tongue upon our buttholes. We don't know.
Makes a change.
And I'm very scared if we ever get T-shirts, that's going to be like the first thing on them. I'm never going to be able to actually wear them in my house when my daughter's around. So
Like WWE kisses my arse.
no, just tongues on buttholes. I'm just thinking that's probably going to end up being our first. I really hope it's not.
So like boots to asses and all that lot.
Knees to faces.
Knees to faces, tongues to assholes.
Oh God, no. Oh, no, please no. I just know now, if we ever get like really huge on this podcast and, you know, all our early subscribers are die-hard fans, you know, at that point, we're just going to have loads of pictures of people just shocking people with a tongues on buttholes t-shirt. The less we talk about it, maybe it won't happen, Matt. I think that's probably what we have to do.
That's it. I think we could just cut it off.
Yeah. So, AJ Lee came out.
She the recycled punk promo.
Yes, essentially, she said to everyone that she was the best diva in the world. So a little bit of homage there to her.
It was the whole X. I've held it for X amount of days, and I've beat X amount of people, and it's like sounds like a punk promo.
Yeah. I mean, we do know that CM Punk is AJ Lee's boyfriend. So did you catch what I said there?
Yeah, I did. I chose to ignore it.
So yeah, you know, everything along those lines. But AJ Lee came out. She was saying obviously she retained the title. Yay, she did it. And Paige, of all people, came out.
Yeah.
Representing the British. You know.
That's it. Another British person on the Raw today.
Yeah, exactly. So she came out, got a huge reception as you would expect.
That's it.
Not only just from English fans. The fact is, people that would be at the show are the type to watch NXT and know who she is, and they were quite shocked to see her there. She came out and said she was going to do what no other diva could do, which we thought, oh, she's going to challenge her for the belt. But she congratulated her. AJ Lee decided that she was going to give Paige a title shot because she wanted to beat on her. And even though Paige said she wasn't ready, AJ Lee
I'm not ready in all my ring gear.
Yeah, in all your ring gear, and the fact is that you've had far better matches than AJ's had for a while. So, essentially, the match starts, and the Black Widow is applied almost within a matter of seconds of the match starting. Paige reverses it, lands the Paige Turner, and wins the Divas Championship on her debut night with the brilliant shocked face that she had in this. I'm very happy that Paige won this belt. I'm not happy in the way that it was won, though, and I'll explain why. So, obviously, we're big fans of Paige. If you've caught our previous podcasts, you know that we've said that you get Paige, you get Emma on the show, you could have a match that would turn people's opinions of the Divas division around. And we were very... a lot of praise for their match on NXT, Paige and Emma. So big fans here of Paige.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I hope that you agree with me here. While I'm happy that she won the belt, really, really happy that she did, because I think she could be the focal point of your Divas division going forward. Why couldn't it have been in a match that could have really shown off just how talented she can be in a wrestling match? This match it finished way too quickly. It was meant to be a shocking finish, you know, and I dislike them booking her as someone who, in her own words, wasn't ready. Because in NXT she's booked as a warrior, as the anti-diva, someone who fights.
That's it.
And is ready to fight no matter what. And I think William Regal said something along the lines that I kind of think is perfect for her. Is that why would you want to hurt her? She'll kick your head in, and will enjoy doing it. And I think that's how she should be booked.
And then what do we get? Crying.
Yeah, I'm not ready, and a shocked victory and everything like this. Now I'm sure that they will book her correctly. You can't go wrong really with Paige. Well, you can really WWE, but I just think that if you're going to have a match where she won the belt, it would have been just as shocking if they'd done it in a good 10-minute match where I know AJ Lee is capable.
Got to prove.
Yeah, where Paige can show exactly what she can do rather than it looks like a fluke. So yeah, happy that she won the belt. I think they could have done it much, much better, though, personally, as we go from here.
I don't know. We'll just wait for the rematch.
Yeah, and hopefully the rematch will be everything we hope for. But I'm not holding out my breath. They haven't done much with Emma since they brought her up, and
yeah, that is true.
But she is the first and only person to hold the NXT Divas Championship and the WWE Divas Championship at the same time. So she's not doing too bad for herself, Paige. At the age of 21, she's achieved more than most women do in their entire careers. So fair play to her. And she is the future of their division. You could build a whole Divas division around her. It's whether they're going to give her the time to do what she can do. That's the real question that we can go for here. Are you under the same assurances of that, or do you think this was just fine as it was?
I will take it as it is.
Yeah.
And I'll pretty much just leave it at that.
It's a British champion. And
I will. That's it. And I won't badmouth it at all.
Yeah. I hope people realise I'm not bad-mouthing it for that. I'm just bad-mouthing the way it was done, and I think that you could have gotten her over much more if you'd given her the time to do what she can do, because she's very talented. So, Hulk Hogan comes out to announce the winner of the Andre the Giant's Memorial Battle Royal, and I'm so happy we do not have to say those words ever again, because the matches for this leading up to WrestleMania really got me bored of wrestling.
I couldn't care less for the whole thing by the end of it. It's just like the Memorial Battle Royale. It's like I don't care anymore.
Yeah. We're kind of glad it's done, even though we're going to have it every year now. Cesaro obviously won it, so he was introduced coming out by Hulk Hogan. As soon as Cesaro got into the ring, Hulk Hogan left. Cesaro did come out with Zeb Coulter, despite the fact that they had a little spat at WrestleMania, and Zeb essentially took the mic and kind of ran his mouth about Cesaro being one of his guys.
No. It's the fact that literally the moment the words left his mouth saying that he was a Zeb Coulter guy, it's like, oh, that's where it's going.
Yeah. If you put two and two together, I still love the way that this was delivered, and Cesaro did it great. He corrected him, said he wasn't a Zeb Coulter guy. He was a Paul Heyman guy. This triggered a huge cheer from the crowd. Paul Heyman comes out. And before really Heyman could say too much, Swagger comes down, attacks Cesaro, and breaks the trophy. He smashed it into pieces.
Yeah.
The Andre the Giant Memorial Trophy. So much for the huge, amazing trophy that they were saying, building up for before WrestleMania. Yeah. It's now
such great build quality.
It's now Andre the Giant with half of a leg. So that's essentially it now. Which even though it was destroyed, Heyman was clutching it quite close, as if it was the Undertaker's streak. He was clutching
the Undertaker's urn last year.
So that prompted a match for these guys. And when I say a match, it wasn't a match. It basically Swagger walked out. So they kind of had the starters of what could have been a really good match, and then Swagger walked out with Coulter in.
Well, Swagger was getting quite a lot of offensive to begin with.
Yeah.
And then literally the moment sort of Cesaro set up for the swing, Swagger was like, nope, and ran off.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, yeah, and obviously Paul Heyman is dubbing Cesaro the King of Swing, which I automatically, because I've got a dirty mind, thought that he's going to be into swingers stuff now.
You filthy creature.
Yeah, which, maybe it's just down to
me. But I could agree, the King of Swing does sort of trigger...
Maybe he's gonna have a Jungle Book entrance now.
Oh yeah.
I'm the king of the swingers. Ooh, Jungle VIP. Let's not go into that.
Great way to save your filthy mind and switch back to PG there.
Yeah, woohoo! Disney porn. No, let's not do that. So. Backstage, anyway, this is building up towards the main event. Steph was telling the Shield to join them in helping Triple H win the belt. Kane kind of ran his mouth, and Steph kept saying Kane over again, which if I matched that with her yesing from a couple of weeks ago, I could probably make quite interesting.
Yes, Kane, yes, Kane, oh my god.
This is amazing, yeah. I know a lot of people did enjoy that intro, and you're welcome, Damien Sandow style. But yeah, Steph put him in his place and said, you do what you're told, essentially. So it set up the main event. There was only one match left on this show. It was Daniel Bryan in his first defense of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship against the Game Triple H. But before Triple H can come down, Batista and Orton basically gave Bryan a good old beating.
That's it.
And then Kane came down.
Got a Batista bomb.
Yeah. Kane came down and gave him a good old beating. Triple H came down and looked set to win the belt, and as you would expect, this was coming. The Shield come down, they halt proceedings, and he basically helped Bryan in clearing out the ring. Which nicely, like I said, this match never really started, so you can't really call this a main event. A lot of the matches ended up like this on the shows.
Yeah, the bell rang. This is the one problem I had with this match, and I picked up on it. Mm-hmm. The bell rang. The match begun. Now, the interference was when Roman Reigns speared Triple H.
Yeah.
No DQ bell ring.
Well, technically the match is still going on now, so it's actually the longest match in history.
That's what I'm saying. It hasn't ended.
Going in at, over 100 hours, this match is just it's just awesome,
Yeah.
They don't even realise they're in the match.
He speared? Nope, no count out. Like, the Triple H and his cavalry left. No, didn't get counted out. No. They played Daniel Bryan's music. Still no bell ring.
So as far as we know, this match is still going on. So if anyone can post the winner,
the longest main event.
Yeah, exactly. So the belt is still on the line, guys. So Triple H can still win if you can remember that the bell wasn't rang and just pin him. Maybe get in there and
suddenly it's Falls Count Anywhere in his ECW rules.
Yeah, it's the hardcore title rules. He just sneaks in and pins him. And just to be a troll, he replaces the Bella with the other Bella. Why not?
Morning, Brie. I'm not Brie.
Where's my belt? Yeah, could be. That just sounds like a really bad sitcom, doesn't it? Really, but
yeah, it does actually.
Yeah. So yeah, it sets up anyway what looks like a Shield and Bryan against Triple H and Authority, Evolution and Kane match at Extreme Rules, which could be interesting if they do the same sort of thing they did at TLC. That this could be quite fun.
That's it. So. Well, I've heard there's been talk of War Game style, and I was like,
maybe. Could be interesting.
Could work, but
we'll see how it goes. But anything that's going to be involving the Shield and a multi-tag match, is going to be of a decent quality. So you can't really argue with that. And listen, that means that 5 out of the 6 guys that was responsible for that 2012 match of the year is going to be in this match. So. That being the Ryback Team Hell No versus the Shield match that was brilliant at TLC. So, so it's got potential to be good, and it could be interesting to see how it goes from here. But I just think it's really silly for Triple H, for his character to believe that the Shield aren't complete faces by now. They've been faced for a very long time. And any sort of dissension by the Shield, I reckon, has been put back a couple of months. I think they're not going to break up for a while now. If they were going to break up, it wasn't WrestleMania, but it looks like they've got no plans to do it soon. It will happen, just not now, not for a while. The timing isn't right anymore. The window's gone. The window will come back. It's just not now. So. Overall, I think, like I said, this Raw was decent. It got some really interesting high spots, and it's got some stuff that you will want to watch, and the crowd itself were brilliant. But arguably, this wasn't as good of a show as last year. That's what I would put down to people.
I'd put it down as a good Raw, but for a Raw after Mania, not so much.
Yeah, it was still when you stack it next to other Raws, this is still really good. It was missing a huge return. That was the problem. If Sting had returned, or maybe another big star maybe came in, but this show was built around the changing of the guard. This show was built around new guys coming in. We had Paige, who debuted and won the belt. We had a debut for we had the promos for Bo Dallas and Adam Rose. We had Alexander Rusev debut, so there was a lot of new talent put on this show. So that was the theme of it, really, and you can tell that they wanna get the guys out that haven't made anything of themselves and get guys in who still have a chance of getting over. So we could be seeing a lot of people leave the company soon. That never got quite to where WWE was.
I read somewhere though, there's talk of with all the new stars coming up and all that lot, if a superstar has reached a certain age and creatives still don't have any plans for them,
they're going to let them go.
They'll pretty much be let go.
Yeah, which I hate to say, I don't want people to lose their jobs, but it may be better for them to do that and go to another company that may use them more better.
That's it, yeah.
So there it goes. There's been way too many people that are in that company for the paycheck and making an easy living rather than improving and trying to get their wrestling legacy cemented. They're just quite happy the way they are. So
that's it, yeah.
Yeah, go on.
That's JTG.
JTG, yeah, essentially him. which is pretty much the ultimate indication of that fact, because man, they've done nothing with him for years. I don't know. I just don't know.
That's it. Like, he hasn't even been in the Rumble. Like, we had Brad.
He wasn't
Maddox.
even in the Battle Royal.
We had Brad Maddox, and we didn't have JTG.
Zack Ryder got in that Battle Royal and JTG didn't. If that's a bit of condemnation of anything I can say.
Zack Ryder's been on TV more recently than JTG.
Yeah. So
I'll give him that.
So yeah, good Raw, definitely decent, and you should definitely watch it. If not for what actually happened on the show, just for the crowd response, because the crowd were obviously brilliant on this show. And
as they always are for an internet.
Exactly.
Well, it's essentially probably a heavy international crowd.
Yeah, I mean there was Leeds United flags in the front row, which is English. There were Italian flags in the crowd I saw. There were some really unique signs and pictures and stuff like that. So really cool for
Good
that.
Stuff.
Yeah. So we go to the next part of the podcaster here. As we said, as in tribute to the Ultimate Warrior, we're going to change our Superstar Spotlight. We were going to do it on Daniel Bryan, but it just seems fitting, as we said, to do it on the Ultimate Warrior. So if you haven't caught our Superstar Spotlight before, what we do is we review someone's career in generalization. We don't go into every single week that he was there, otherwise we'd be here for years. But we basically go through all the big occasions in someone's career, talk about maybe some of the controversial things that happened in their career and how they'll be remembered. If you don't catch it before, we do this every 2 weeks, and the week that we do in between is our topic. So if you're interested in Superstar Spotlight, which I think a few of you are, then we do that every 2 weeks. And the next time we do it will be on Daniel Bryan. We will do that on him. So
that's it. He needs his pay.
Yeah, that's it. We'll give him that payday, damn it. So Ultimate Warrior. He started his career as like many did back in the era of where Warrior was starting up. He started up as a bodybuilder.
Yep.
He joined with the likes of Steve Borden. We better know him as Sting. And they trained together to begin their transition from bodybuilder to professional wrestling, which was quite the lucrative market back in that time, as it is now. But I think back then it was, especially for bodybuilders, it was much easier to get into the business with their physique. There wasn't as much demands on
talent.
Yeah, than the technicalities back then. Yeah, so.
But then we are talking about a period of wrestling where you didn't have such brash moves. Like the Warrior had a body slam. Well, anyone can jump on someone.
Yeah, he was not doing like 450 corkscrew splashes, shall we say? Especially back in those days. He started his career in WCCW, not to be confused with WCW. He was making a name for himself as the Dingo Warrior, which just seems very odd to me now, but I guess back then it was working.
I guess it made sense somewhere.
Yeah. But he turned a few heads because WWE came calling. When they did, they asked him to change his name to the Ultimate Warrior, to make himself like a cut above the names like the Road Warriors or the Modern Warrior, Kerry Von Erich, which were the names going around then. So he was going to be the Ultimate one, the Ultimate Warrior, which was obviously what his name turned out to be. He started to use his trademark sprinting down ramps and the usual stuff you associate with him, like the shaking of the ropes. When he got into WWE, he was Dingo Warrior a little while in WWE, but he quickly transitioned to Ultimate Warrior. He went forward to win the Intercontinental Championship, beating the Honky Tonk Man. This was the end of Honky Tonk Man's longest ever, not just his, but the longest ever Intercontinental title reign in history. And if there's actually a story behind this, that Honky Tonk Man actually didn't want to do the job to Warrior at a certain show, so he chose to do it on a different one, and he was beaten within like 30 seconds. It was it was almost like the Daniel Bryan Sheamus match at WrestleMania. It was over before it started, sort of thing.
That's it, yeah.
But that was like
you make the change and it'll just come back and bite you.
A lot of people think that was Honky Tonk Man's punishment for basically not taking one for the team. But back then, you had to look out for yourself, and him getting beaten on that show, he didn't want to get beaten on that particular show that he was on, so they booked it differently. Ideally for him, Honky Tonk's career never really got to those heights again, so maybe not the best idea for him anyway. But Ultimate Warrior, he went on a feud with Rick Rude. and the legendary Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant did beat him, but there was a few victories backwards and forwards, and it was quite a interesting feud that he had with Rick Rude as well. Rick Rude, I think, is one of the most underappreciated classic wrestlers of that generation. He was a really good heel. Around this time anyway, it was becoming really sort of... it's almost like Daniel Bryan is now. People were thinking this is the next big guy, and this not even that. They were thinking this is the next Hulk Hogan with Warrior. So the idea was to pass the torch over to Ultimate Warrior by having him beat Hogan at WrestleMania 6 for not only the WWE title but for the Intercontinental Championship. This is obviously one of his. That was probably the height of his career. That match.
Yeah, easily.
That match is known in folklore as one of the memorable WrestleMania endings, and really being the
well, especially if WWE ever put out a promo video for WrestleMania, that one's always there.
Yeah, exactly. It's always one of the ones that they show because it was such an iconic moment, and the fans were going crazy for it because it's very rare for them to have two faces face against each other, but they did, and it worked here. So the fans were all over this match. And back then, you couldn't have two. This was like a dream match back then. You couldn't have two bigger stars than Hulk Hogan and Warrior going against each other. They were two larger than life characters.
That's it.
And the Warrior obviously won the match, and the torch was proverbially passed, but it wasn't really passed because Hulk Hogan never really gave it up, sort of thing, from there on out. He went on to feud with Randy Savage. He had a match with him at WrestleMania 7, which he also won.
Yep.
So he had a pretty good WrestleMania record in that sense. However, the controversy starts in 1991, in about mid-1991. He sent a letter to Vince McMahon essentially demanding more money for merchandise sales and working days. He basically thought that there was money owed to him that he hadn't received, and he wasn't going to wrestle unless he received said funds. Which you think... if someone did that now, that would be sacrilege. It's almost like the CM Punk thing, that like... there's no way that Vince would do that. There's no way that Vince would give him the money. But actually, back then, these guys had a lot more power than wrestlers today do, because back then it was Warrior and Hogan selling the stadiums, not WWE. So,
that's it. But we're going back to sort of like nowadays versus the old days, where it was the names of who was on the card that sold the show.
Yeah, imagine if Hulk Hogan decided in when he started up and started getting huge to jump ship to another promotion. WWE may not be around now. That's how it would have been. If like Cena decides to jump ship now and goes to TNA, which will not ever happen, but let's say it does, WWE will still be the top company in wrestling. Because it's WWE that sells those tickets now, not the wrestlers. But back then, it was the other way around. So they had a lot of power, and Vince McMahon did give in to him. And the response that he gave back was saying that he was very appreciative of Warrior. He was almost like he was kind of pleading with him and giving him everything that he wanted to, and thanking him for being a part of the company. However, more like Vince, that eventually changed. He suspended Warrior for basically saying that he threatened to go home, and that was essentially the end of Warrior's rise in there. They kept him under contract. They just never really used him, and Warrior tried to resign, but WWE refused. They kept him under contract regardless. He did eventually come back. If you remember, one of the actual videos they used, one of the main ones they used for him, was when he came back and saved Hulk Hogan at the end of WrestleMania 8 when he was getting the big beating. So he came back and saved when he ran down that long ramp and saved him. They used that clip time and time again, and it's quite iconic of him doing that. If they ever show him running down the aisle, that's always the first video they show, because it was huge. All the fans were going
probably just because it was a huge aisle more than anything,
and the fans
obviously the response, they were just like, oh my god, it's the Warrior.
They were reaching over the rail to try and get a touch of this guy as he raced through, so, pretty cool little image there, but still that didn't really save anything. He was caught in the middle of the whole steroid scandal at that time, if you remember, where Vince was very, very close to ending up in jail and not even being in control of his own company. Over the whole steroid scandal. However, he kind of used the steroid scandal to his powers, and he was released from the company. He used it to get his release, essentially. So he went off the radar for quite a while. He ended up in WCW. He wrestled all of 4 matches, and all of them were terrible. They were known for being awful, awful matches, and all the storylines he was involved in were nonsensical and ridiculous. So
sounds like WCW.
yeah, it's not just Ultimate Warrior that got the dicking from WCW. There was a lot of people that got the dicking for that. They really did not utilize him very well. But there wasn't much to utilize with the guy. All of his best wrestling days were behind him at that point. So there wasn't really much you could do with Warrior, and there wasn't much they did with him regardless. So more recently, WWE released a DVD in 2005 known as The Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior. It was a very elegant burial of him as a character and as a person. It was very weird that they would release this back then, because it was almost like they wanted to start a fire, which that was during the time when WWE was trying to just get by, and they were happy just to be the top dog around.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, it was a very condemning DVD that they released. They said a lot of things that Warrior still, even at the Hall of Fame ceremony, obviously still very upset by. And he did not want anything to do with WWE a lot during that time after that DVD was released, which was of 9 years ago now. But I mean, 9 years is
which is completely acceptable, to be fair. A company just essentially just released the DVD for people to buy, which is just like, listen to Vince slate another man.
Yeah.
Which was generally what the DVD was.
Yeah, essentially exactly what it was. So yeah, I can understand what he's feeling along that. Now, I'm not going to say who was right, who was wrong, but regardless, there was a lot of bad blood on both sides for that. I mean, Vince obviously back then still disliked Warrior for putting him in that situation where he had to pay him more money and he had to give in to his demands, and obviously that's something that Vince did not like to do. But obviously we know better now. They obviously reconciled. The first kind of olive branch that was connected was when Warrior came back and was the almost like the spokesperson for WWE 2K14, which was the video game that was released.
Yeah.
He was on the front of all the advertising for this, and he had like a really kind of a comical advertisement for the game. So if you haven't actually seen that and you want to have a moment of Ultimate Warrior that makes you smile, I would recommend that. That's quite a good one. And obviously we know the ultimate reconciliation was him being inducted into the Hall of Fame this year.
Which he was right to do.
And he signed the contract to come back to the company.
That's it, the ambassador's deal.
And unfortunately, a few days after Raw, well, one day after Raw, he passed away.
Yeah, the day after.
So that, in general, is the guy's career. He had a very glittering career, a lot of championship reigns. That epic moment at WrestleMania 6 would probably be the highlight of his career. And I've actually got his words said. I thought it would be quite fitting to use these words to end the Superstar Spotlight with Ultimate Warrior. This is what he said on Raw, and I'll say it piece by piece. I'm not going to do it in the way he did it, because you just can't. You couldn't say things the same way that Ultimate Warrior could say.
You just literally just like, as long as you don't get right to the end, you just go. Then we'll be okay.
I'm not going to do that. That's fine. So this is exactly what he said. He said, "No WWE talent becomes a legend on their own. Every man's heart one day beats its final beat. His lungs breathe their final breath. And what that man did in his life to make blood pulse through the body of others makes them believe deeper in something larger than life, then his essence, his spirit will be immortalized. By the storytellers, by the loyalty, by the memory of those who honor him and make the running the man did live forever. You are the legend makers of Ultimate Warrior. In the back, I see many potential legends. Some of them have warrior spirits, and you will do the same for them. You will decide if they lived in the passion and intensity, so much that you will tell your stories and you will make them legends as well. I am Ultimate Warrior. You're the Ultimate Warrior fans. This is the spirit of the Ultimate Warrior will run forever." Those were his final words on TV. Very apt, and this is the ones that we said that were very cryptic, especially the first part about. Essentially about deceasing, which is very cryptic when you look back on that. But I think if you're going to be remembered for such words, I don't think you could have done perfectly in terms of his character than that actual.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It definitely played into sort of the warrior character.
Yeah, it was a Warrior promo that people will never blast for being nonsensical. It was to the point. Well, I don't not say not to the point, but it was. It got to its meaning, and if he's going to be remembered for a promo, I think this is probably one of the best ones that you're going to have to be remembered for.
That's it. Yeah.
It means a lot to consider, all things considered. So a guy who had such a huge impact had his own fair share of controversy, but ultimately he buried the hatchet before he died. I think that's really important that he buried the hatchet with WWE before his passing. So that part of his life had some closure, you know. So it would have been a lot worse maybe if this happened and he hadn't been able to get inducted into the Hall of Fame and experience that one last time. You know, and experience having fans cheer his name along those lines, because it had been a very long time. But he will be missed. I think you can't ever have a character like Ultimate Warrior. I don't think it works. I think the fact that he was that character and he was 100% dedicated made it work. And yeah, not really much else we can say. Really, he was a legend in his own right. That's the reason why he was inducted, and he was well worthy of that induction. And whenever you look at WWE past or wrestling past, he has to be one of the guys that you talk about. So,
well, there's no denying that all the tassels and the running was just a part of past WWF.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it when you look back at that time. I would say that he partly because of Hogan and partly because of what happened between him and the company, he never really rose to the heights of Hulk Hogan or Steve Austin. He was never the top guy in the company for a long period of time, but he was still huge, and he still had one of the all-time. He had a Daniel Bryan WrestleMania 6. You may think that Daniel Bryan had like pretty much the biggest payoff in history, and he did kind of to an extent. But Ultimate Warrior, it was huge having him win both the IC belt and the WWE belt at WrestleMania 6. It was the first time anyone held both the belts at the same time. So that's history right there, and he's got plenty of history in his name along those lines. And I think for when you look back on his career, if you want a highlight reel, there is one hell of a highlight reel there to be used, and they did use a lot of those epic moments in the video package leading up to his induction. So that's a big enough sort of stamp on how huge he was as a character, and how he got over really well. I mean, when I say got over, I mean people would go bonkers for the Ultimate Warrior when he came out, and you can see that as much when he came back to save Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 8. It's hard not to have goosebumps because everyone was going absolutely apeshit for the guy. They were going mental, and wrestling was different back then. It was easier to do it, but still, that was a pretty awesome moment to go and look back on. So, is there anything else that you really want to add on that, Matt? We kind of
I've got nothing left to say.
Went through that. This has easily been our longest podcast yet. We hope that you guys did enjoy it. We knew this was going to be a long one. We've been preparing for it. We've been saying our prayers, eating our vitamins, and preparing, and like I said, doing our push-ups and getting ready for this. Next week should be a little bit easier on us, I think, Matt. We can take our rest.
Oh, that's it. We've only got Raw.
Yeah, that's it. And I'll probably end up getting around to watching TNA this week. I will watch the match where Eric Young wins the belt, and I'll give you more of my thoughts on that as it goes along. Because it seems now with WrestleMania dying down, I should have more time to watch TNA on a Monday, so it makes things a bit easier for me to watch it there. And give you a little bit more TNA coverage, because I know that people do enjoy that as well. I know we rag on it a lot, but we haven't been hugely negative. We were negative of Willow. I said that that Gunner could be big. I said that Eric Young winning the title could be a good thing. So really, 2 out of 3, we've been more positive than we've been negative about TNA. Would you say that?
Oh, we did sort of run their video packages.
Yeah, okay.
And their production values, stop trying to be WWE.
Okay, maybe you're onto something there. Maybe I'm talking out my arse a little bit.
Half and half.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for listening to us this episode. We really enjoy you spending the time with us here today. If you did enjoy it, you can leave a like on our YouTube video. It's not necessary, but it will give us a little bit of a boost. If you're new to the channel, we really appreciate if you subscribe, and that way you can join us for this journey that we're taking. This is episode 20. I can't believe it's episode 20 already.
Christ, already.
Yeah. So yeah, subscribe, and that way you'll be able to catch all of our episodes and even our pay-per-view reviews or anything extra we just choose to record in the middle of the week. And we put up on the channel. You don't want to miss those. Sometimes they can be even more controversial and outspoken than our actual podcast is. So sometimes they can be quite interesting. And apart from that, leave us a comment if you've got any questions, or if you want to, talk about any of the things that we said there today, or maybe your favourite Ultimate Warrior moment. We'd love to read anything that you have to send us.
Well, we'll probably watch quite a lot of it, because rumour is Raw's going to be an Ultimate Warrior tribute.
And rightly so. I think that's probably the best way to go about it. So, you can expect a few people to have his colours on, maybe as they come to the ring. I'd like the Usos maybe to have that face paint on. That would be quite a good homage.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. But on this show, we will build you the ultimate farewell, and we hope that at least our superstar spotlight on the Warrior this week is a fitting sort of tribute to the guy. And we hope you guys have a great week. We hope you guys did enjoy WrestleMania season as it draws to a close now. I think the Raw after WrestleMania is pretty much the end of WrestleMania season.
That's it. Yeah.
So things are going to die down a little bit from here on out, but we should.
And then it's on to SummerSlam.
That's it. Start building up to SummerSlam. That's the way I reckon they should do things now. Just build it up each 6 months to a big climactic end, and then they go from there. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks a lot, guys. We hope that we haven't kept you too long this week, and it's probably, like I said, the longest podcast. But we'll see you guys next week. Thanks a lot, and bye-bye.
Catch you soon.
Bye.